Hey guys and girls, Bored Now back with you. On this video I'm going to be talking about a brand new horror release. So I saw this at the cinema the other night. It is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. So this is another big release from A24, collaborating with Sony. Actually, they've put some money into this project. So brand new horror film, as I said, and sort of mild spoilers for this review. I'd say I won't go full blown spoilers. This might be one of those that I revisit in like a couple of months or something with Rachel. Have a bit of a discussion with her once she's seen it. But for now, just I'll go into some stuff, but I won't spoil everything. Just to sum up my overall feelings. So this is getting a fair bit of hype, but it's reviewing pretty well online, getting some solid reviews with critics, and I guess it's sort of some variations on older, ideas and stuff. But the setup is then you have this quite new couple of B and Sam. And they've been together about 6 months, they say at one point, and they go to like a party, a get together with like Sam's old friends, who I'm guessing she knows from like college or uni, whatever the case may be. But she hasn't seen them for like 6 months for whatever reason, and they're quite different to each other, Sam and B. Like, B is the more awkward, shy one, and it kind of has that quite realistic setup of her being the odd one out in this group because she doesn't know anyone, they're all Sam's friends, and she's like the nervous one, and there's certainly some like judgmental stuff going on from the other side, but at the same time, like, Sam hasn't seen these people for a long time, for quite a while at least, and so some of them at least are quite critical of that and saying, yeah, you've been doing your own thing, you show up at this party uninvited, and that's the whole deal. You suddenly show up when it's convenient for you. So there's a bit of tension on the other end towards Sam. It's not just a case of B being like a bit of the odd one out. So you get the basic setup with them reconnecting. Sam's like best friend is there, who she hasn't seen for a very long time, and there's a bit of jealousy with him towards like this girl who he likes, or at least a friend of his, but it's implied that he likes her, even though like he's attached to another girl. But like she started seeing this guy who she found online, like an older guy who's there at the party, and a lot of the setup is about these different connections and the tension between these characters, and then they get into the premise of the film, which is they play this game called Bodies, Bodies, Bodies of the title, and it leads to these different things happening and things developing, and it's where you get, because this is like mostly a horror comedy, but there is like a mystery vibe to it, and sort of when the mystery comes in is when one of the characters shows up dead out of the blue randomly, and then paranoia starts setting in with the other characters about who's responsible. At one point it's probably like only a bit hinted that it could be supernatural, like stuff going on in this, but the point is you don't really know. But at some point they come to the conclusion that maybe there's a set pattern to do with, in the realm of the game, who was like dead in the fiction of the game, and that whoever's doing this is kind of like repeating that sort of cycle. So it's all, once you get into the main beef of the movie, it's all about that stuff, and that's why some of the stuff with their personal lives is like important to set up at first, because it plays into the drama of that stuff, and like who can you trust, or them not quite being able to trust. And in the end, it kind of comes back around to Sam and Bee's relationship, because they do seem pretty close and pretty tight at the start, but their relationship is trusted. But one of the things the film does quite clever is that it does plant these seeds, and it sort of like pays them off later and sets up stuff. So it's almost like, and it's something which I predicted a little bit, than Bee. Not that it goes that way, but then obviously at one point she's like a big red herring, as they all are. I think it's almost the point of the film that then kind of everyone's a suspect, and they're just having fun with that sort of premise. But yeah, the fact that it's sometimes the innocent ones you have to watch out for, because like Bee does, partly out of desperation, and like she justifies it, like in the scene when she kills Greg to try and protect Sam and what have you. That's how she justifies it. But by doing that, it shows a more aggressive out there side of herself. So it throws shades on her, and things sort of snowball. But as things grow, there's a reason why each of them could have like maybe have done it, or are behind the killings. And I don't think they really lean into this idea that it could be something like weird and supernatural, but it's sort of in the back of your mind sometimes because of this stuff randomly like happening, and they're playing this game. So I think maybe the film probably wants you to think that at some point, but it's a mystery. That's part of the element that then you don't really know, and that's where the suspense sort of comes from. But yeah, one of the things they do with B is like you don't really know this person, whereas the others, for all the way they bitch at each other and stuff, and how you might say these people hanging out, yeah, it's not always the best idea. They're maybe not always the best people to be around each other. At times, they're pretty like monsters in a way, but at least they do to a degree know each other. They've grown up together, and obviously at times the way they treat B is like pretty shitty and stuff. Some of them make more of an effort, but you know, it's sometimes the devil you know is like better than the devil you don't. But there's all these like drama and reasons why people could be suspects. But so overall, it's a really solid, enjoyable movie, especially once you get into it. Like, I was a bit worried at first because like largely the characters seemed unlikable, which I guess is the point, because they're going for a very sort of satirical, this is like modern culture. It was definitely dipping into like these quite obnoxious, you know, preachy, like, but also like lazy sort of arty types, you know, who are very like privileged for the most part. Like, there's one character who comes from a different background, and they sort of like highlight that at one point. But like part of like the humour and satire is like based on that. But so I was a bit worried that I was going to struggle to really get into the characters and stuff at first, like if the whole movie was like that. And the reason I did get more into it was just because they played into that, and it's like they really turned it into a horror premise where they were all like snapping at each other, and it was just played more as a paranoid sort of horror. As I said, comedy type thing. Like, it is like hit and miss. Like, some of the humour isn't really that great. There were moments where I did laugh out loud. There are some like sharp lines and sort of like observations, but at times it was a little hard to like tell what was a moment of comedy and what was like more straight up. And it's only once you get into like the farce of it, like the farcical nature of some of this stuff, that where it actually like stands out, and it's like, okay, they are going for a bit more humor or a bit more satire. But for a long time it was quite hard to do that. But at times it could have been a bit more funny. I thought there were scenes that were like really funny, but it was a bit inconsistent. Like I didn't, and it's one of my like main things with the film is that it's probably not as clever and edgy as it thinks it is, because one of the big sub themes of the film is to do with like celebrity and social media, how everyone can be a celebrity nowadays. And to be fair to the film, I don't think it is taking itself too seriously. I think it is just meant to be a bit of a fun ride, and you just go with it, and you kind of enjoy the funny moments, but then mixed in with some good horror. There is some good tense scenes, some good, death moments, like people turning up dead and stuff. But it isn't taking itself too seriously, but there is just this feel of, yeah, we've kind of had characters like this before, and there's nothing that original about this movie. Like, it is taking parts of sort of other movies. I mean, it's got a little bit of a vibe of, like past movies like Spring Breakers sort of thing, or it's obviously riffing off certain other like horror teen type movies. So that's probably like a fair complaint. Then it's being hailed as this really edgy new horror movie, but in reality I think it's a solid film, which is a fun time. I enjoyed watching it, but overall I don't think it is that special. Like, I don't think this is going to become a new sort of like cult classic. I would probably rewatch it to see how I thought about it second time around, and if I got even more out of it. But I don't think this is one I'm going to be returning to like over and over again as the years gone by. I think it's a solid movie. I think it's a fun time. I think one of the things it has when it's at its best is that it does capture the sort of cringeness and how awkward these characters can be like around each other. And it's almost like some of the stuff which like The Office captures, that very sort of in-between type place where, yeah, it's very cringe and people just say things that they either don't mean or they don't mean like them that much, but like by the time they realise they've said them, it's like too late to take them back. But it's just this very awkward type thing where there are history in this group, so like sort of skeletons that have been rattling about do come out, and then it's very like uncomfortable to watch, sometimes funny to watch, but funny in like a cringe sort of way. And so like some of the stuff with like this guy, the best friend character, I think his name was David, but I forget now, Scott, something like that. But like his interaction and his jealousy with like Greg, and like when he's kind of trying to like one up Greg, and the scene that he mocks Greg actually like during the game, and Greg kind of like gets defensive and realizes that he's been like, this guy is taking the piss out of him, and then he's not sort of going to take it anymore. He ends up going to bed, but it's just like this edgy sort of awkward moment where like you feel Greg could do anything. Like Greg could turn on him and do something nasty, and that's something where it's just planting like seeds for maybe Greg being the suspect or the guy behind this later on. And Lee Pace plays that very well. He has a very like edgy sort of presence to him, where he can do like the fun charismatic guy who's just doing it, just getting down with the kids 1 minute, but then he suddenly turns the next. Like, I think those scenes are some of the best scenes. I'll say, even though like the characters themselves aren't that amazing, like they don't stand out that much, they're solid enough, and it's like the acting that really carries them and really carries the film. I think the acting is really good in this, and like the characters feel very sort of natural. Obviously, Amanda Stromberg, who's been in a couple things like The Hate You Give, she's like plays Sam, and there's a couple of others who are familiar, some who aren't familiar for me, but I thought the whole cast were very good. Like, in many ways, the cast are like the standout of the movie. I think they carried it a lot. So the ending is one of those endings. I mean, it's kind of the point of the movie, but I can see the ending pissing some people off. It's not something that I'm bothered about either way. It's like, I don't think, oh my god, what a genius ending, but I'm also not angry about it neither. I'm kind of indifferent to it. I see that it's the point of the film, but in some ways I just, it's not something which is going to blow me away sort of on the other end as well. So it just is what it is. Like, it's not really something which affects the film that much. I sort of come down on the end of, it is a bit sort of cheap and lame, but I also see what they're doing with it, so I actually don't have a strong feeling about the ending one way or the other, but I can see how some people would. So overall, this is a pretty fun time. I'm not going to recommend it as strongly as some other people would, but it's definitely worth a watch, and I think as a horror comedy it does hit a lot of the right notes. So for now, I'm going to give it 6.5 out of 10. So I would recommend you see it, and I'm going to check it out again at some point. And who knows, my score may go up. It may not, but we'll see. It's solid enough. It's worth checking out anyway. That's Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. So a new horror release. If you've seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media. You can also make a one-off donation at my PayPal account, or you can support me at patreon.com/borednow. I do regular horror movie reviews with Rachel McDonald. We recently finished the Wrong Turn franchise, all 7 movies. Reviews of those are up on the channel, and we just started a new franchise which is Final Destination, so we've reviewed the first Final Destination movie. You can find that up on the channel now, and we've got plenty of stuff coming up in October, spooky season itself. But thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.